This is Charlie Rose.
Tell me about Horace and Pete. How did you come to this?
Well, I don't know, it's weird. It's like I feel like I found this family in my head somewhere, I don't know. I got interested in doing a show that was like multi-camera, the way a sitcom is shot, but without the audience, without the laugh track, and without the need for the constant jokes, that pumping of jokes that sitcoms have. But because what you're left with is that live feeling. It's kind of like a multi-camera drama or something. Anyway, I kind of got the idea of a show that felt like that.
It is a drama.
I think so, or something. I don't know. It's a show. It's a story.
Yeah.
But
And what's the story?
It's about a family.
Two guys in a bar?
It's about a bar run by a guy named Horace and a guy named Pete. And it's a bar that was opened in 1916 in Brooklyn by two brothers, Horace and Pete. And they each had a son, one named Horace, one named Pete, and they handed it to their sons, Horace and Pete. And so the idea is that this bar has been run always by the same family, always owned in the family by a Horace and a Pete. Sometimes they've been brothers, sometimes they've been cousins, but it's always been one of each. It's like a lineage. It's a weird kind of like a royalty thing. So it's got me and Steve Buscemi play the current Horace and Pete.
Yeah.
Alan Alda plays Uncle Pete, who's like from the previous generation.
It's a new form for you too, isn't it?
Yeah, very different from other things I've done before.
Why this? Why this?
It just grabbed me. I just believed in it. As soon as I started writing it, to me, I've had a lot of ideas for different kinds of shows, but there's this test is, does it right? Like, can you actually get out the scripts? And I started writing it this summer, and it just kept coming, episode after episode, and I realized I'm writing something that is worth shooting. So I started to get it under works producing it.
And what about the actors when you called up Alan Alda and Steve Buscemi and others?
Well, Steve Buscemi called me to do a benefit for a firefighter thing that he
and
does.
You said, I'll do your benefit, but by the way.
Yeah, I happened to be writing it. I wasn't sure where it was going yet, and I had him on the phone. We're chatting, we're friends. And I said, hey, do you want to do a show? A lot of things are timing in show business, because he had just come off of Boardwalk Empire.
Right.
If I'd come up with this idea a year before, it wouldn't have existed. But he had just come off of this big show, and I said, what are you doing? And he said, nothing, I'm looking for stuff to do. And I said, do you want to do a series with me? And he said, yeah, sure. And I said, we'll play brothers. And he goes, yeah, okay. So then once I got that in my head, where are the two brothers, I started writing. And then I saw an article about Edie Falco and saying that she's done with Nurse Jackie.
He said, boom.
She's one of my favorites. So I wrote her into it, and then I was at the Emmys, and she was sitting with nobody next to her. So I just sat next to her and said, I wrote a part for you in my new show. And she said, okay, so she read it, and she wanted it. The writing is what attracts the people. If you don't write in a way that interests them, then they won't be in it.
Alan Alda?
And then Alan, actually, he asked me for the part, because I wrote his part for Joe Pesci, who declined it. And then I was looking for somebody, and Alan's agent suggested him. And I thought, I don't think he's the right part for it. And she smartly said, you should get somebody who you wouldn't expect to do it. And so Alan really wanted the part, and he's great. Oh, so I thought, he'll figure it out. So that was just a faith move, like, Alan Alda will find a way to make this work.
So you didn't roll this out with a lot of fanfare?
No fanfare. Yeah, the opposite. I made it a secret.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why that?
Because I found that really interesting, the idea of the way shows are presented to the audience. They tell you as much as possible ahead of time.
Right.
Because they just want to get you to look at it. They don't care how it...
And by looking at it, you assimilate information about it.
Yeah, and they want you to see how it feels and the way who's in it and what it sounds like. They want to show you as much as they can so that if it's the kind of thing you like, you'll take a look. But to me, that feels backwards. In other words, it's like tasting something before you eat it. It's like you want to discover a thing and go, I don't know what this is.
So you want what? You want
I want them to know nothing and have no thoughts and no idea. They just know there's something new.
Just jump in the river.
Yeah, just start watching. And you should be a little disturbed when you start watching, like, I don't know what this is. Right. You should have this tension of, like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then when it's all done, you go, wow, that was really great.
And I'll come back for the next episode.
Yeah, and then when it's all done with all 10 of them, you go, well, I'm really glad I watched it. After the first episode, you shouldn't think that was great. You should think, I want to keep watching. I don't understand what I'm watching yet. That's what I want them to feel. And then after 2 episodes, I want them to feel like, I still don't understand what I'm watching, but I'm curious. And then after the third episode, I think on my show, specifically this show, you go, okay, I really like this. Now I want to be watching it. And then when you get to 10, you go, wow. You should say wow. But the thing is that the TV company, because TV costs so much money to make, they need you. They want you to say wow. I want to see that before you see it. See, again, I think it's backwards. You should start with nothing and get to wow.
And how do they pay for it?
Yeah, they have. I mean, in order they have to pay for it through an intent to watch. That's what they call that. You know, they track the show. There's an intent to watch, or they hire people to be in the show that they think will.
I have a sense that you want to own stuff you do.
Oh yeah, only because then I can do it. Then I don't have to. You know, when you ask somebody to fund something, you're asking them to take a risk with you. I knew that Horace and Pete was going to be such a strange road, and I would do things so counterintuitively. I didn't want to convince other people. I didn't want to risk someone else's money. I didn't think that was right. I didn't want to go tell someone this is going to be a success, and then take it down a road where it
were you
be.
Convinced it would be a success?
Yeah, and I still am. I think
because you said it's the best thing you've ever done.
It's my favorite thing that I've done. Yeah.
Favorite thing you've ever done.
Yeah. I think it's the best work I've done. Yeah, I think so.
But did you believe it'd be a success?
I didn't know either way. I didn't think of it that way.
But do you care?
Yeah, I'd like people to see it. I'd like tons of people to see it. I would. And also, I'd like to be able to do a show like this again. So if we can kind of train the audience into this notion.
What makes it unique? You could only get it through your website.
That's right. Yeah. You have to go to my website and buy it and download
But, I mean, are you creating a whole new model
it.
of people to deliver entertainment?
I don't know. I think, I don't know if it will work for other people. I know how to make TV from nothing.
Right.
I know how to do all of it and then distribute it.
And how do you know?
Well, I know how to produce television.
Right.
I know how to create, you know, I have a company. Obviously, it's not just me. I have people that work with me, but I know how to direct and write and produce and edit. I know how to put the thing out. And then how to make my website was really created to sell tickets to my shows and stand-up specials that I did.
But that's other part of you wanting to own stuff and you liking to be in charge of the way you do things. You've cut out the middleman.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want him to deal with you.
Yeah, I like that part. I like that part.
I do too.
Yeah, it's fun.
But it's control and it also, I mean, it's direct.
Yeah, it's a very personal relationship. Yeah, and I think the one thing people liked about, one of the things they liked about Horace and Pete was that they got an email from me that I sent to them saying the next episode is ready. And then they went to my website. It was very bespoke, you know. Then they went on my website and they watched it. There was nothing else going on. And then they paid me money for their episode, their bit of money for each episode. And then I went and made more.
So you've self-financed this too?
Yeah, I paid for everything, yeah. Yeah. Well, what's money for? I mean, that's what
to
money is for.
spend on things you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's more, to me, it's more interesting to do that than to have it stored up somewhere, you know, sitting in accruing interest. I could be dead tomorrow, you know.
Exactly. And if you need money for any reason, you can go out and do stand-up.
I can go on the road.
Tonight.
So far. Yeah, so far, you know. Some that you can always get checkmated. You always have to know that at some point, one or two things could go wrong and suddenly you're really screwed.
Yes, it's back to whatever you do.
Yeah, but everybody lives that way.
When you created this, what's the creation process for you? I mean, you decided that this bar.
Yeah.
And you love the idea and the drama?
So I thought about a family and they own a place together, which means people work and live in the same place. I mean, in other words, you live with people and then you work with them. And then you can't escape them, which is what family feels like. Family is something you can't escape.
But this
is a relationship you can't get out of.
This is not Cheers.
No, not at all. Not even close.
I know.
It looks like it if you have the sound off for 2 minutes, and then even with the sound off, you'd be like, geez, that's not Cheers at all. It's very, it gets very down. It is funny in moments. It's very surprising and startling in moments. So the creative process is like you create the people and the world, and then you see if it writes. If you can sit down and write. And it just flowed. I believed in the people. They felt real to me. So I just wrote. I told their story.
I mean, when you start episode by episode, it just pours out.
Yeah. And some things come out that way, and this one did too. Every episode, I would sit down and I would just be writing, and I put the people in the rooms in my head, and I have them talk to each other, and it's like I'm hearing it, and I'm quickly copying it down like a stenographer. Or a court report. Is that what a court person is?
Yeah, right. That's
what it feels like. And then when it's over, I stop and I go, oh my God, that was crazy. And then I read it and I'm going, that's pretty good. And then I've got one done.
Okay, but how much editing do you do? I mean, is it pretty much a stream of consciousness when you do it, or do you simply hammer it and like
A few different things.
Like
okay,
sculpting?
a lot of that happens ahead of time. Like that's when I get an episode written. When I sit down and write it, before I write it, I walk around driving myself crazy thinking about it. I do all the carving up here, and I know what's going to happen. I think about what it means in each interaction and what direction it's going to go. And I think about all that for a long time. It's like being pregnant, and then finally I just regurgitate it onto the page. And after that, maybe right before we shoot, we do a rehearsal for a whole day. We rehearse the show over and over again, and then I'll look at it and go, maybe there's a few things that could change. I usually keep the dialogue all the same. There's an integrity to that, like how you first wrote it, but I might cut and I might add things. But I don't change the little lines inside. I think that feels like tampering.
How is it different than writing stand-up?
Well, stand-up, I don't sit down and write it. I just go on stage and...
Well, no, but you have to think about what you're going to say.
Yes, but I just write like a one word and a piece of paper about the subject I want to, just to remind myself that there's an idea there. But I work it out on, it's a spoken word.
Yeah.
It's so it's better not to prepare with stand-up. It's better to let the first audience that you tell the story to, they pull it out of you by the way they listen. And
so you listen to them and you may add to it. And
yeah, they'll tell you how interesting it is.
And is that what you're doing now, working on another stand-up routine?
Yeah.
And these small clubs teach you, or inform
What's
you as to
working and what
what's
isn't.
working is not.
That's right.
You know, and do you find a lot of stuff you think might work doesn't work?
Yeah, but you keep trying it.
Oh,
Yeah.
you try with a different audience,
That's
or you
right.
add and polish.
Yeah, you
and-
got to have you got to know a little more than them. If you're just showing them what they want to see, there's something very satisfying and boring about that. An audience that will come and see you again and again is because you really surprise them. If you make people like something they didn't expect to like, to me that's good. That's real gold.
That's a great goal.
That's what you want. Yeah.
Have them like something they didn't expect
They
to like.
never thought they'd like. Have them go, that's so great, and I never would have expected that to
Yeah.
be something I'd like.
Okay. Tell me about the episode 7, I think it was, about a transgender
Yeah.
dialogue. I mean, the dialogue is fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you know, you wrote it.
Yeah. Well.
Tell me about it.
Well, that.
Any reason not to tell me?
No, I'm just trying to think of what to say about it. When I wrote that, I didn't expect that to happen in that story. To me, that story was about Horace confesses something to her first.
Right.
About his life, something very shocking.
Right.
And to me, that's what that scene was about. Initially, that's why I wrote the scene, was that
Horace confesses to this girl.
because they have a one-night stand.
Right.
So they have an immediate intimacy, and then the next morning they don't want to look at each other, which is how people sometimes feel in the morning.
Right, yes.
But he invites her to some eggs. Sit down and have some eggs before you. And she says, "I don't want to be here," and he says, "I don't want you here." So they're safe with each other because they both know that they don't want anything. They don't want to see each other again.
Right.
So now
So therefore they
eating-
can be more truthful.
That's what it is. More truthful than they are with someone that they have a future with.
Right.
So she asks Horace about his life, and he has a very shocking detail about his life. And he just goes ahead and tells her, because it was easy to tell her. And to me, that's what I sat down to write.
Yeah.
And then I had her tell a joke. He says, I mean, you're not going to be able to air this, but he says, you have a nice pussy. And she says, yeah, I put it in myself where my d used to be. And I just have her tell that joke. Now, you're not going to be able to use that, but she makes
Don't worry about it.
She makes this joke, and he laughs. And then I felt like I was in the room with him, and I felt like,
Yeah.
what if she's not kidding? What if she's kidding, but she wants to toy with him more on the subject? And then I just started to trade lines down this road. That he finds himself in this situation, and then she's interested in talking about this.
And he wants to know who is he slept with.
Did he sleep with someone who used to be a man? And she says, well, if I was transgender, wouldn't that mean I am a woman?
Yeah.
Aren't we all saying that when someone becomes transgender, I'm told 50-50 by people which one you're supposed to say,
Right.
That's a woman. Caitlyn Jenner is a woman now.
Right.
With all the rights of a woman and the yes and hooray, she's a woman. And it's not polite to say that's Bruce Jenner in a dress or Bruce Jenner who got an
It's Caitlyn
operation.
Jenner.
That's
A
Caitlyn
woman.
Jenner, a woman. So if Caitlyn Jenner sleeps with a man, does she have to tell him I used to be Bruce Jenner? I think that's a really interesting, unresolved, for the average person who doesn't think about this kind of stuff all the time, which is what Horace is.
Yeah.
In the show, that's who I'm playing, a guy who's just got a myopic view. That's a really uncharted wilderness. Yeah. So I put him in that wilderness with somebody who had a little bit more, although I don't know in the end. I don't know if she's transgender or not, the character. I still don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Horace doesn't know.
But she says to him,
what if I was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She says to him at the end, you know, I'm a woman. You slept with a woman.
Right, and then he goes one more time, who always was one, and she goes, so still don't know.
So he doesn't know.
Still don't know.
Which was that great device.
Yeah, and I also think that Horace is excited by the ambiguity. He asks her out.
Really?
Yeah, he likes it. I think Horace is a little bit turned on by not knowing what or who,
whether
happened.
he slept with a woman or a man.
I think he's excited by, especially by her command of being able to stand on that shaky line. She's exciting him by toying with him. That's what happened in the scene. But I'm telling you all this from having watched it, not from having written. When I wrote it, I didn't know what was going on.
See, that's amazing to me. You didn't have any idea.
I really didn't. I was like, what? Oh, then what? Oh, then what would he say?
Yeah, right.
And then he says it. And then what would she say? And then she says it, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so crazy that she said that. Well, then Horace would ask this question. And then they just sort of talked in my head, and I wrote it down. That's what it felt like anyway. Yeah. It doesn't always feel like that way writing.
Tell me who Horace is.
He's nothing. He's just a nothing guy. He's a guy who can't, he has no agency. Like, he doesn't have a thrust in life.
Yeah.
You know, the greatest generation and all those guys, even the Vietnam veterans and the baby boomers, they all have these terrific names to their generations, and they either had to overcome something, or they had to create something. But then our guys, I was called Generation X. It's just like a nothing, and so a lot of us, we didn't want to be cruel like our parents were, or we didn't want to hit our kids. So we didn't know what to do, a lot of us. I feel like I'm a good parent, and I'm an intended parent, and I have sort of like an idea of what it means to be a citizen or whatever. But I thought it was more interesting to write a guy who doesn't know what the hell to do and doesn't know even how to care about it. But the show's really about
You're not writing yourself, clearly.
No, I don't think. There's parts of me and Horace.
Which part?
You know, he moves a little bit slow, and he's a bit of a schlub. That's always me on some level.
Do you think of yourself that way at all?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah, in life, I'm, I
what?
kind of, my gut's hanging out of my T-shirt half the time.
That's just...
And I'll put ice cream on my chest like Tony Soprano and eat and watch, Shark Tank. And
this is just fastidiousness. I mean, this is not...
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit...
Well, that's who everybody is. I'm an ordinary guy. Yeah. Horace is ordinary. So
do you really think of yourself as an ordinary guy?
Sure, yeah. Hell yeah.
With all the creativity you've expressed to all of us?
Yeah, that's
your capacity to reach inside of the human experience and, tell a story.
But it's because I'm an ordinary guy that I think I can tell a story about an ordinary guy. Yeah. You got to be one. You can't.
Yeah. But you love language, too.
Yeah, I do. I really do.
I know, you do. I mean,
yeah.
I was laughing out loud reading, the whole thing about amazing.
Yeah.
How use of the word amazing. So what are you going to do when somebody has a really amazing experience?
No, you got to have some sense of turning the volume up and down. You know?
See, that's a perfect way to express it.
Yeah, you can't just go for the top every time.
There's a quote from Gary Shandling: "The world is just too noisy and distracted to probably ultimately survive. Everyone needs to shut the fuck up. The answers are in the silence. Monks set themselves on fire to make this point. Just consider it." Mm-hmm. What does that quote mean to you?
Well, Gary wrote that to me in an email.
I know.
And he wrote that to me a few weeks before he died.
Just a few weeks?
Yeah, maybe a couple of weeks before he died. And
unexpectedly.
He was a great friend, and he was the kind of guy I could talk to him for hours, and then we never had enough time. Like, we talked for 4 hours, and my mouth would get all dry talking to Gary, and I would get like a headache because I wouldn't want to drink water or do anything to stop talking to him. And then it'd be over, we'd have to part company, so...
I always thought about him. He came to my show. I always thought about him as, God, I wish he was doing something right now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? 'Cause
Yeah, I know
thought
what
he
you
was
mean.
that good, and you just
He was
wanted
one of
him-
the best ever.
I know.
Yeah. One of the greats.
And why the hell is he? You would ask yourself.
Yeah. Well, he gave a lot. He gave a lot of great stand-up, and his series was a lot of TV has been built on the back of that
exactly
series.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't remember that.
And he was terrific even when he substituted for Carson.
That's right. I showed the first episode of Larry Sanders to my 14-year-old daughter after he died, and she loved it. And it was fresh, you know. And she watches like 30 Rock and new shows, and this show it's right up against them, and it begat them, you know.
You know. Your role in this is very much of a guy who listens. He's a listener.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Horace is very quiet, and he doesn't talk much. And part of that is because I wanted to be able to effectively direct the show and do it without...
You didn't want to have many lines?
I didn't want to have a lot of lines. And also, look at the cast. Edie Falco and Steve and Alan and Jessica Lange. These are all better. These people are all better than me. They're all better actors than me. So,
you're right about that.
You know, yeah, for sure. So I wanted to just give them a platform and just be there as a sounding board.
But you've been doing some acting. Are you surprised? You seem like a natural.
I mean, hope I am. I know I own a lot of terrible moments on screen that I can't take back, including on this show.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm stiff. I'm not really, you know. Towards the end of Horace and Pete, the feelings about the show were so real to me. I really felt like Pete was my brother. And so when hard things happened to Pete, I got very upset. And
you feel it because you created.
Oh God, yeah.
See, that's an amazing thing. I mean,
yeah.
You created Horace, and you created Pete, and you created the other characters.
And then I got involved like I was in the family. Yeah,
like you were there.
Yeah, when the show, when we shot the last episode, I was I couldn't. It took me a while to recover from it. I never had an experience like that because I didn't have to act. I didn't have to conjure something from my past or figure out how to get there. I was just very upset for real. And all of us, we traded emails, me and Alan and Edie and Steve traded emails saying that we're in withdrawal and that we were upset, that it was hard to walk away from the show. And it was hard how it ended.
Does it have to end?
No, not necessarily, no. But I mean, the season is over.
The
story that we told is over. It's a 10-part, it's like a 10-act play. That's what Horace and Pete is. It's more like a 10-act play than it is like a series. See, the thing with a series, when you write series television, you have to keep everything intact all the time. You have to keep all the balls in the air. So you can't really have anything big happen or big be said, because then you can't take that back. Every show has to reset. You know, TV has this thing where it kind of shows up your house like a vacuum cleaner salesman, and it makes a mess on the floor, but they got to clean it up before they leave. TV is supposed to leave you the way it found you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that way you'll want to watch it the next week, forever. It's a perpetuity thing. But so the idea with this show is to write something where every week it's gonna take a piece out of you. It's gonna leave you a little bit broken. And you'll go like, how the hell did I get to keep doing this? Well, we don't have to keep doing it. We don't have to. I didn't have to make more than 3 if I didn't want to.
What's the level of satisfaction from this? Level of satisfaction from this compared to the other stuff you do? I mean, can you even judge it, weigh it?
No, I
assess it?
can't, because this was so personal and it felt so real to me and it was so satisfying.
And a new direction too.
Yeah, brand new thing. That's the thing that's so fun. Is to learn a thing you've never done before and then do it really well. I'd never done a show like this. None of us had. Nobody had. I mean, nobody had made a show. It was closer to Saturday Night Live than it was to a sitcom because we had to throw it together and have it up on the site. We shot it Wednesday and Thursday and had it up on the site Saturday morning. So it was a very quick, and all of a sudden it was in the world.
All the episodes had been written by the time you started shooting.
They've been written, except for we did things about current events because it was a bar, and I thought people at bars talk about what's going on in the news, so if they could talk about what was actually in the news, that's why we shot it so close to the air date. But the satisfying, nobody had figured out how to do that, and I invented a way to direct the show that we could get it up quicker.
What was that?
It was this color coding with the cameras and stuff. It was a thing that was kind of tricky to figure out.
So
but it was
here's
fun.
what
It was also fun, you know.
Here's what I hear. I mean, you know, you rate stand-up the best. Acting and getting not only good reviews, but also more and more roles. You're now a director.
Yeah.
You are now a producer.
Yeah.
You mounted this whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, do you come to some sense, I can pretty much do whatever I want to?
Well, there's a million things I can't do yet, but thank God, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to keep trying. You want to get more. It's like if you're in the Army. A friend of mine was in the Army back in the 80s, late 80s, and so he would just go to, like, he took his little platoon, he was a sergeant, he'd go like, let's go to jump school. Let's all just go to jump school. And they go for you know, he was a what do you call it, reserve.
Right.
So on his weekends, instead of sitting around playing ping pong,
they go to jump school.
Let's go to jump school. And then they got a patch for jumping.
Yeah.
Then they go, hey, let's go to medic school. So they all got rated as medics, and they got this big bunch of patches, all these things, skills that he's packing his head with. Unfortunately, then a war broke out, and he was sent right. Because they're like, look at all these skills you have, and he didn't.
We need you.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So he had to do all this stuff. But anyway.
But I mean, the world.
I like getting patches. It's like being a Boy Scout, and then you can all of a sudden you can do that. You know, like in what's the movie Matrix?
Matrix, yeah.
When there's a helicopter and he says to her, do you know how to fly a helicopter? And she goes, wait a minute, and she just loads the program. Now I do. Well, anyone can do that. It just takes longer. You can just load a program. So now I know how to create a multi-camera drama and mount it the same week that I shot it. And how to direct many great actors, which I had never done before.
Exactly.
I'd never done
I rest my case.
Yeah.
You'd never did it.
Never did it.
And you're doing people who know what's good and bad.
Yeah. So, yeah, you just open yourself to the thing and you go,
You just said, I'm going to go do this. Let's go.
Right. What you start to get is this. Instead of being able to say, I've done this before, you say to yourself, I haven't done this before.
But I've seen it done.
But I've done other things I haven't done before.
Well.
And it came out okay. So I'm not afraid of this. And also, if this doesn't go well, what's the big
Worst thing can
deal?
happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone said it didn't work.
The thing that you learn the most that'll help you do things you can't do yet is how to recover from failure. If you can recover from things not going well, then the worst that happens is this is going to be a total wreck, but I know how to recover.
Yeah.
I know how to be okay after I wasn't.
Yeah. Somebody once said to me, don't worry about it because you always have your talent. You can do something else.
That's right. Yes, you'll always find something else to do. That's another thing about getting all these different skills.
Yeah.
If I wash out in every possible way, I could go write for somebody's sitcom, you know? Quietly, I could just write.
But let's look at the other side. You're doing everything, and you're doing all of them well. What is it building to?
In the end, it's really...
What journey is it?
It's one show at a time and one story at a time. So I'm not trying to be some like guy who can do all these things. It's just I really wanted to tell this story about Horace and Pete and his family.
But you had
so this was how to do it. So let's learn how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is learning on the job.
That's right. So the thing, what it's building towards is whatever stories I come up with that I want to tell. That's all.
Yeah. Is directing this different from directing Louis?
Yeah, it's so different, yeah, because it was indoors in a studio all day and plays.
Yeah,
it's like a play because we did
working with actors. I mean, that's what directing is.
That's right. Louis was single camera, which means that it's you shoot little pieces,
right,
and then you sew them together through a magic of editing. This thing we shot like 20 pages without stopping. We did it like a play. We let people feel like they were at a play performance. So we didn't. So it was about rehearsing and preparing, and then just letting it happen. It's a completely different kind of directing.
I'll bet you all of these experiences have somehow said to you, why don't I try a Broadway play?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I will. I have to write it though. If I write a play, then I'll definitely try to go make it. Yeah.
So is writing in the end what you are, a writer? I
think that's probably what I'm best at. Or besides the stand-up. I mean, stand-up is, I'm a comedian since I was 18.
Yeah.
And I never stopped being one. And it's.
But you said I didn't get good until I was in my 40s.
That's right. Well, that's how long it takes. It takes a good 30 years to get good at it. Yeah. So yeah, I only got good at it recently.
Well, you said you got good at 42 and you're now 47, so you've been good for 5 years.
Been about 5 years that I've been worth watching, yeah. I think so. And that's the thing I can claim I put in my years with stand-up, and I put in the work and I made the sacrifice, a lot of hard years, and that's why I can do it now. Writing would be second. I've been writing for about...
Okay, stand-up, then writing.
Yeah.
Then acting.
Directing. I think acting's the last. If I had to drop one, it would be acting.
Why?
Because it's not what I'm not the best at it. There's a, and I'm not great at it. I can do it. I can do it. Yeah. I know how to do it. I love doing it. It's super fun.
You're good, you know how to do it, but you're not the best at it.
I'm not the best at it, and I haven't put as much of a commitment into it. You know, you got to do one thing all the time to be great at it. That's why I'm going on the road now for a year, and I'm clearing the decks. I'm not doing any productions because I haven't been as good at stand-up as I was in like 2008 to 10.
And does that eat at you?
Yeah, it bothers me because
Me
I still
too.
do
I would
it.
be bothered if I knew how good I was,
Yeah.
and I knew I wasn't performing that well.
That's an awful feeling.
It is.
Yeah, I feel like I'm betraying the audience, and also I'm betraying the thing I'm doing. I did 3 years or 4 years where all I did was stand up, and I would go on tour and make a special, and wasn't doing anything else. And I think that's the best I ever was. Between like 2011 and now, I've put out a few specials that I'm very proud of, and I did my best. But I would have been better if I wasn't making television while I did those specials.
Did you get to the point where you knew you were the best at stand-up anywhere, period?
No, I mean, that's subjective. Some people hate what I do. They don't like it. It's not their thing, you know. Plenty of people. It depends on who your favorite comedian is, you know. I'm some people's favorite comedian.
Yes.
And I think I'm as good at doing it, like in terms of like, I'm as good as anybody in terms of.
So you really can't compare stand-up, can you?
I don't think so. I think it's just as hard as comparing people, you know. And certainly artwork isn't really qualitative. I know a ton about stand-up, and I know how to do it as well as anybody that exists. Yeah, by watching it and doing it over and over and over and over again. I've been on stage, I don't know, some millions of times probably in my life. It's a constant thing. And if I don't do it for like 2 weeks, when I go back, I'm not as good again. You got to gear up.
Other than being a father,
are
you happiest on stage?
It's hard to say. I do love. I love being on stage. I love shooting things. I love being on a set and shooting. I love the feeling of exhaustion at the end of it, long a lot of work, and feeling like walking away from. There were days I walked away from Horace and Pete. I used to walk home every day.
Yeah.
And I'd go, damn, it was a home run today. Like I felt like I hit a home run. That was a good feeling. I'm happiest sometimes when I'm out on a beach or in the water, you know, or out in nature. I don't know. Those are hard to compare. Those are all big happies. But being a dad is the best.
I think it was a New Yorker that said comedians are populist.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Who says the same thing to you? No.
Yeah, I guess we talk like other people, you know. We don't talk like the New Yorker.
You don't talk down to them, yeah.
No, we talk like other people
And that's
talk.
part of it, isn't it? So they identify.
I think so, yeah.
They identify with you.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's where I learned it, just from talking. And that's when I'm able to be a little more social, I come up with more material.
Is what makes you laugh what makes the audience laugh?
Yeah, sometimes, but I'm working really hard for their laugh, so I'm usually not laughing.
Is that it? You're working it. I mean, this is
it's hard work.
This is hard work.
It's fun as hell, but it's hard.
Yeah, but when they laugh, and when you know it's so genuine, that's payoff time.
Oh yeah, I love that feeling. Sure.
Yeah. And it makes you better.
Sure.
To feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does cringe-worthy mean?
I don't know. That's a new word. It's
what is it mean?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess that people that are talking about things that make you go, oh my God, that's cringing, right?
Yeah, I think that's what they mean. Yeah, but
to me, that territory, cringe is it's repelling away from something. So it's like an area you don't want to think about. I don't want to think about that. To me, it's fun to take a deep breath, which is the opposite of a cringe.
Yes.
And walk in there.
That's exactly right.
And see what's in there.
Yes.
Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff in there.
That's the essence of you.
I think so.
It really is.
Look, if you can make people take a whole zone of their thinking that they're scared of, and you can make them take a breath and go in there and then have a good time, I think that's positive.
I think it was GQ who said there's nothing he can't and won't demystify or de-cinematize. Take the sentiment out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a worthy thing to try to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean,
but comedy can make us think about things in a different way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Comedy can make
think about things in a different way.
Yeah, sure.
Just where we're talking about.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a compact humans have always made. We want to be able to laugh about stuff that's upsetting us. It's part of it. And then everybody gets upset sometimes, and they all go, how could we make such jokes? This is a terrible thing. But in the end, we always choose the humor. That's why comedy's always stayed in there. Once in a while, everybody says, this is wrong to talk about these things, and you shouldn't joke about bad things or hurting things. And we all clang a bell because that's part of the process. And I accept that. That's okay that people do that because it's part of it. You say that to yourself once in a while because it lets you off the hook. I tweeted to everybody that I thought that joke was inappropriate. And then later you can laugh at a joke that's inappropriate, you know? I mean, that way you get to have both ways.
But are there places you won't go, will not go?
Only if it's not funny or if it's boring.
But that's it.
Yeah, or somebody else has been there heavily, then I won't go there usually because it's boring. Yeah, it's only if it's boring. But I don't. I remember saying one time that saying that a joke is too awful, saying that something is too terrible to joke about, is like saying that a disease is too terrible to try to cure it. I mean, that's what you do with awful things. You joke about them. That's how you get through it. It's how you survive life.
It's the only way you can talk about it.
Yeah, so to say that's so terrible, I can't joke about it, that's totally counterintuitive to me. It's like, if it's that awful, you better start joking about it. Because that's how human beings
And where is
get through
truth in comedy?
It's not always there. I think lying is an effective way to get laughs. Lying, yes.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, sure. Lying is like magic.
If lying,
There's so
if it
many
takes
lies.
lying, then let's lie.
That's right. There's so many lies in my act. I have so many stories that I really convince them that it's true, and that's why they're laughing. It's like, this really happened, man. And that makes them laugh because I'm sharing something. But it's riddled with lies. In the details, in the where I say it happened, how many of each thing there. I lie all the time just to make stories interesting. You know, up all the numbers, all the stats in a joke. Yeah. See, forget it, man.
I'm not sure I'm disappointed in this or not.
You wouldn't want to hear an honest version of my acts. It'd be really bland.
Because it makes it more powerful, more interesting, more compelling, more surprising, more exciting.
That's right. Yeah, more funnier.
Yeah. But I'm still surprised that jokes, I mean, where does it start? I mean, is it just an idea? I wonder if. And then
or like a moment like you live. It's just, you know, jokes have different forms. There's observations, like I had this thing that happened, or this is what people are like, or an absurd story. So sometimes the thing will happen and I'll go, that's a bit. Sometimes stuff is in my head for years before I recognize, why have I never talked about this on stage?
Give me an example of that.
Well, like, there's a new bit I've been doing about when you're in an email fight and you write an email, you know, when you're emailing back and forth, which is really those long emails where you say, in June when I told you that I had this issue and you promised to be sensitive. You know, and you work on the email for a long time, like you're Beethoven and you're going deaf and you just do it. And then you send it to a friend and say, what do you think? And this is a new phenomenon. They write, then they do a draft of the email and they tell you, I would take this out because it seems a little excessive. So then you send it to somebody else who lets you put that back in. And you work on it for a long time with all this collaboration. And then you send it. And then you realize you left a sentence at the top that says, this is the latest draft, what do you think? And I've done that before, and I've had that humiliation of letting the person that you're in a real fight with know that you have writers, you have a team of people working on the email. Anyway, that's happened to me a number of times, and I've thought of it, and only about a week ago I thought, Jesus, I don't know why I haven't told that story on stage.
And now you will.
Yeah, I have been. I've been doing it on stage, and it's killing. If you air this,
well,
it's
you've been doing it on stage, and people love it, and they just because everybody does it. They can identify with it. They can feel it.
I found out that they have by telling the story.
Okay, but now take that, just that episode, that told story. How are you shaping it and changing it and refining it and sculpting it?
Okay, so there's a bunch of places in there to work on it, right? Like there's a thing about, you know, when I say email fight, it's the difference between a text fight. A text fight is like, you know, screw you, whoop, screw you, whoop, I hate you, whoop, I hate you too, whoop. That's texting. That's how we talk there.
That's how we talk.
An email fight, the first laugh is always when I say, when I wrote you in June, and somehow people just know what that means. And I described all of that stuff. So all the little details will get bigger and bigger, and I'll find more and more little things in it.
You're not going to tell me whether you're going to do another episode, another series of Louis. You don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, but what will make the difference again?
If I crash into it as the thing I'm really dying to do again. I have to be wanting to do it. I didn't want to make a show because there's a show and I have to keep doing it. Yeah. That's not a great reason to make a show.
Especially if you're you.
Yeah, I think so. I think I can't honestly keep making episodes of that show just because it was doing well and it's there. I did it as long as I could because I was very grateful to the people that gave me the show, because I'm not the only person. I'm like the center of, like, there's all these people and then these people.
Right.
And I'm in here. So all these people that I work for that gave me the shot, I wanted to pay them off as long as I could. And once we were getting Emmys and stuff, that means a lot to them. So I milked that as long as I could. And to all the people that work for me that make a living working on my show.
Right.
It was very hard to tell them, you're all fired. And then tell all these people, I quit.
Yes.
That was very hard to do. That's a lot of pressure.
And how did you get up the nerve to do it?
I didn't have a choice. I did it when I finally was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So, and also because I still work for these guys. I make a bunch of, I make Zach's show, I make Pamela's show.
Exactly.
And then these people all work with me now in Horace and Pete, and they'll work elsewhere. But in between each thing, there's like a, what?
Yeah.
Where'd it go?
Would you have any interest in building a kind of just a creative factory?
It's kind of what my company is, Pig Newt.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, we make a lot of stuff. We're making an animated show now with Albert Brooks. We make Pamela Adlon's show, Better Things. Zach Galifianakis' show, Baskets. That's a big hit. And Tig Notaro's show on Amazon. So we make a lot of shows. Yeah.
Politics.
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, God.
Why did you launch into that? Because you
really
felt a threat to your country.
Yeah, God.
What?
You know,
I mean, you went pretty far, didn't you?
yeah, I did. It was a lot. It was a lot. That was so much. I said so much.
You really did.
Never has anyone said so much about something of which they know so little.
But did you want to reel it back, or you don't care?
I mean, it is what it is. You live with what you say. You say it and you live with it.
After you said, I mean, you know.
I was like, oh boy, after I wrote it. I mean, the second after I sent it, I was like, ugh.
Did you really?
My daughter said to me,
him
I told my daughter, my 10-year-old.
You did? You told her what you did?
She didn't read it, but I told her basically what it was.
You compared him to a very evil guy.
They're going to kill you on this. She said, you're going to get killed on this. She said, they're never going to stay, because she said they're never going to stop bugging you about it. But they have, by the way. It's not that big a deal.
And I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, it's fine. It's all right. I think the thing with especially presidential politics, it's every 4 years.
I know.
We have this
obsession.
Well, it's a discussion that's very important. It's like a family thing. It's like a family thing. It's like a family decision. The way people take it, it's very personal.
Yeah.
It's like a member of your, it's like if you had an election in your family. If you're in a family that's like living as a family, and you had an election, is mom or dad going to be in charge for the next 4 years? Or is our brother going to take dad's spot?
Right.
You know, which is what it felt like to me when Clinton won. It felt like our brother took over for dad, you know?
Yeah.
Or
he was one of us.
Yeah, or maybe 3 of your siblings brought some woman that you don't know to the house and said, we're going to replace mom with her, and we have the votes to do it, and you would go, what? The amount of anger and passion that an election in your family would have.
That's what we're doing right now.
That's what it's like. That's because it's very emotional. It's not a rational thing. Yeah. It's not based on, you know, picking somebody to do a job. It's based on how we all feel and what we want to say to the rest of the world. And what we're afraid of, and you know what I mean? It's a big deal. So I'm a American citizen.
Yes, you are.
So
congratulations.
Yeah, so whoever's president affects my life like it does everybody else's. Yeah. A vote is a personal thing, and it's a personal right. But your vote also affects everybody else. So it's a really tricky thing. And I think the thing about American politics is that it's always going to be a big, messy fight. That's what democracy is. Like, people would feel more united and at peace if we were all being oppressed by one, you know, government. Then everybody gets along better. But when we're all trying to decide, and we're all very different from each other, it's a big, ugly, difficult
Democracy
fight.
is ugly.
Yeah, it's really, really, it's painful. And so I was feeling
it seems
bad.
to have gotten really ugly this year, though.
Yeah, I think we always say that, but I think that's true. This one is really, really, this one is there's a lot of pain involved, and I was feeling a lot of fear, and I wrote my little email saying Horace and Pete episode, whatever it was that week, I think it was 6, is ready for download. Enjoy. I got to go back to sleep. I was actually in bed. I was going to go back to sleep because my kids are coming in a few hours. I wanted a little nap. And then I wrote P.S. And all I meant to write was stop with the Trump. Just stop it. It's not funny anymore. That's all I was going to write. And then I sat there and I looked at it and I was like, you know, because this. Well, because also, and the thing is this, and then this, and this, and this. And I wrote this whole malignant tumor of a thing. This wasp nest of thoughts. And I sent it to my mom, and she said, sure, send it.
You sent it to her for approval?
Yeah, she said, go ahead and send it. I hate to put her on the spot, but she said, sure.
Said, sure.
And I was like, yeah. And there's part of me that...
This is late at night?
It was Saturday morning.
Oh, Saturday morning. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And so I sent it. And it was it's a very weird thing because I'm sending this to just people that are on my email subscription list. It's a little select group of people.
Right.
But then it's on Twitter in seconds, and then it's on. I mean, I knew that more people would read it than who I sent it to, and I figured a few people will go, this guy's a jerk, and I knew that, you know, whatever. I was like, whatever, let's just see what happens. And then it's in every news publication in the world.
Yes.
And the more it grew, the more I was like, oh, God damn it, why did I do this to myself? Like, this is so dumb. And then all these things that I kind of just thought, they're just feelings I had, and some of them contradicted each other. Some of them were like, you know, geez, I don't know this, geez, I don't know this. But then all of a sudden there's just this weight and this vice being put on the thing, and these words are being tested, and none of them hold up. Because it just was one guy talking like with a beer in his hand. It's just a guy, you know what I mean? It's just my opinion at the moment about the election. And it was based on some big feelings. And I stand by some of it.
You compared him to Hitler.
Yeah, sure. Not Hitler when he was done. You know, I mean, that's
no, I know.
That's an unfair comparison
in the 30s
for anybody.
when he was coming up,
yeah,
and how he
in his rookie years. Yeah, that was when he was, you know.
And you said what?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess I feel like there's similar dynamics. Yeah, I guess so. I guess I feel that way, and I did then, and I you know.
You haven't changed.
No, I think it's a scary time, and I don't think you can. Every time somebody terrible comes along, and then we kill them, and then we say there'll never be another one of those, and we say that guy was from another planet. That wasn't a human being. Humans don't make people like that. He came from an egg. That guy was hatched from an egg. And so as long as we don't hatch people from eggs, we won't have any of those. Well, no, he had a mommy and he had a daddy,
exactly.
And he was a baby,
right.
And he played.
He went to school?
He went to school, he had friends.
Yeah.
You know, whoever I'm describing, he's done all these things. He's been nurtured by parents. He's been a good friend to somebody somewhere. He's listened to somebody who needed to be listened to. And then this thing built, and then he ended up all these terrible things that he did, and it happened through him. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know that I would, if I had it to do over again, say all that about Trump again. Look, I think Trump is more from my world than he is from politics. You know, he's one of us. He's a showbiz guy.
He's an entertainer.
He's an entertainer. So I feel like we're responsible for him.
Yeah, but you know what I hear? I hear this making its way into your routine.
I don't think so. I think I think I said everything I need to say about Donald Trump. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, here's where I felt a little bit bad because a lot of people got mad at me and they said, just shut up. Just shut your mouth. Don't tell me. You know, a lot of times when you say, don't tell me what to think, right? I'm not telling anybody what to think. I'm expressing myself during an election year.
You're telling them what you think.
Yeah, that's right. But I did come into their lives through the funny ha-ha door, and then I took a big political serious shit on their table. So I get being irritated. I get it. I get why people would be irritated with my having written that. It's not what I do best. It's not what I'm known for. It's not what I'm asked about. You know what I mean? I mean, if you invited somebody to your house because you knew they're really funny and fun, and then they just said all this stuff, you'd be like, what are you doing to me? So I get why people got irritated. It's interesting to me, a lot of liberals got mad because I suggested that maybe conservatives and liberals have equal value, and that they should each have a shot at running the government.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way that I was raised. I came from Mexico. When I was a little kid, I lived in Mexico.
Right.
And I remember coming to America and discovering it as a little boy from another country. And the idea of democracy and free speech was just an incredible thing to me. And it's still, I look at it with wide open eyes. I'm very innocent that way. And the way I look at the world is that I feel a certain way about how the way a country should be run, but not everybody feels the way I do. So when there's enough of me to push the election over to our side, we get a president for a while. Yeah. But the other side, who feels differently than I do, they should get an equal shot. Because it's not all my country, it's a lot of people's country. You know what I mean?
Of course I do.
So democracy shouldn't, some people think democracy means I always get things the way I want them. Well, I don't look at it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, democracy means sometimes I'm really frustrated with the way the government works. Then I know it's working right. That's the way I look at it, and I'm in my 40s, and so to me, Obama's a liberal. He's a liberal president. To some people, he's a huge conservative. It depends on how you look at it. Everybody looks at it differently. But I don't think Trump is any of these things. I think Trump is a guy who will dismantle the actual process. That's the only reason I said something. I'm not known for making political statements. I've never done this before. I have no track record of running my mouth politically.
Will you do it again?
No, I probably won't. But the reason I did in this case was because this isn't about I believe in the liberal cause and I want a liberal. It was because this guy feels like he could chuck it all away, and he's even saying he wants to. He's saying he wants to make it that you can sue people for writing something you didn't like. Yeah. You know, it's insane. So anyway, I shouldn't have said even what I said now, but
but you did.
I shouldn't have written it. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You don't mean that.
No, not at all. No.
Can I just talk about family for a moment?
Sure.
The kids are older now. Do they laugh at you?
Yeah, they do. We laugh together, you know. We all laugh together in different ways. The 10-year-old, it's a jovial, fun laughing.
Right.
And the 14-year-old, we talk about all kinds of stuff, and we laugh about life together. She reads a lot. She's a very intelligent kid, and she's very curious and thoughtful. So we have a lot to talk about. It's great. It's the greatest part of life.
Talking to your kids.
Oh, yeah, and being, you know, the thing about being with your kids, and you don't have to be doing anything. You could be at the DMV, or you can be waiting in line at the grocery store, and you're having a good time. And
have they seen Horace and Pete?
Yeah, they can. My oldest came to the taping of the last episode, and it was really, really something to have her there. They're bored by what I do, which is probably a good thing. Yeah. They have their own TV that they watch, and sometimes we'll be like, "Hey, there's an episode of my show that's like appropriate."
Yeah.
And they're like, rather watch, you know, Portlandia.
Portlandia.
Gravity Falls. Bob's Burgers.
Yeah.
Very popular show with them.
See, my last question is, there was a time in which you weren't going to do another episode of Louie. I think it may have been between 4 and 5. Or
yeah, I took a break, yeah.
You took a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you have a thought.
Yeah.
And it seizes you.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, you've got another series.
That's right.
So what might happen, having to do with Louie or anything else, some idea just grabs you.
Then I got to do it, yeah.
You got to do it.
Yeah, no matter what it takes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Pleasure.
Yeah, same here. Always. Always.
For more about this program and early episodes, visit us online at pbs.org and charlierose.com.